Hey, we've got A.J. Daugherty, the head softball coach from Wallace State University. Hey, Coach, welcome to the show, man.
Good morning, guys. Glad to be here.
Now, pronounce your name, Daugherty?
Daugherty. Throw a dart and put a Y on it.
Dart and put a Y. Daugherty. Got it.
There you go.
Us country boys have a hard time with words sometimes.
That's all right.
Yeah.
That's all right. I get it.
Especially the longer the word, the more difficult we have. So, is head softball coach at Wallace State. Wallace State's a good program.
Absolutely. So how long have you been there now?
Yes.
I'm going into my 4th season.
Okay.
Came in the summer of 16, so the spring of 17 was our first season there.
All right. And, like Tom said, baseball and softball teams through the years have been known, for their
if you went
programs.
JUCO to Wallace State, that was just a stop off
especially
to go
when we
to the
were coming out of school. Oh, yeah, that was –
we like to look at ourselves as more of a farm system than a JUCO. So and that
that's
goes
a great point.
That's true all across our campus with all of our sports.
Yeah, absolutely. But now that you know what, looking at it like that is pretty cool as well, because those that sign with you know that it might be junior college, but it's going to lead to something bigger and better.
It's the next level.
Yeah,
well,
it's definitely the next level.
I'm going to give you a glimpse into a visit here. When we have kids on campus, we don't go out looking for just JUCO players. We're out there looking for the kid that, for whatever reason, maybe it's academically, maybe it's personality, maybe it's financially, for whatever reason.
Or just got looked over.
Or maybe just fell through the cracks, correct. Didn't get that opportunity right out of high school. And, Wallace State to me is and like you've said, it's not just another junior college. It really is kind of a farm system stop.
Yeah,
and we work hard to play a quality schedule to get our kids in front of 4-year schools and get them those opportunities. And, because of the long-standing tradition, our kids, we feel like, have a leg up on everyone else on moving to that next chapter of their playing career.
Yeah. So talking about careers, let's talk about yours a little bit. So what did you do prior to Wallace? How did you end up in Wallace?
Okay, so obviously I grew up playing baseball and liked it. Wasn't great at it, but enjoyed it, and always wanted to be a social studies teacher and a baseball coach. That was going to be my path. Yeah, I know you had never heard that before.
Yeah, they don't know what that is.
Right, and so got out of high school and started college at Shelton State and was rocking and rolling, having a great time. And my high school baseball coach calls me one day and says, "Hey, my brother is the new head softball coach at Shelton. He's not going to have a paid assistant's position, but he's looking for a student assistant. You need to go talk to him." And I said, "Coach, I really appreciate that, but I'm not coaching softball." And he said, "Listen, you would be 19 years old with collegiate coaching experience on your resume.
Yeah.
Regardless of what you want to coach, that would be awesome right out of the gate." He said, "So you really need to go talk to him." I said, "I don't think you're hearing me plainly, sir. I appreciate that opportunity and that offer, but I'm not coaching girls in softball." And he said, "Just promise me you'll go talk to him." So I did. I went and had lunch with his brother, and he talked me into it. And so I finished. I was a student assistant for a year at Shelton State, and finished all my core classes. It was time to transfer to Alabama, which was the plan all along, and went and met with Coach Murphy about maybe an opportunity to come help with his program. And he originally told me thanks but no thanks, and then later called me back and said, "Hey, I've had something come up."
Oh, really?
And he made it plain to me, you're kind of going to be the hey boy, hey boy, go do this, hey boy, go do that. And so I said, "Sir, I'll do whatever you need me to do." And spent 2 years on that, I guess, support staff, you could say, just basically doing whatever he asked me to do. And so got out of Alabama, went to a small private school in Tuscaloosa that competes in public school. It's a 1A. Was there for a season, went to a different 2A for 2 seasons, and then in 2012 I came here to open James Clemens. I heard y'all talking to some Jet coaches over here. They're not first generation Jets like me.
No, they're not.
I was there when there was still way too much dust on the ground to be moving into the school, but
Gotcha.
we had to do it. It was August and time to move in, so was fortunate to get the opportunity to begin that program, and then in the summer of 16 got the opportunity to go to Wallace State.
Wow, that's big time. And especially, so let's talk about your start at James Clemens a little bit and how tough that probably had to be to recruit those girls, find those girls willing and wanting to play, and being athletic, being athletic enough to be able to do it.
Right.
That was tough, right?
Look, guys, those first couple years at James Clemens were a huge growing experience for me. I am the coach I am, whatever that means today. because I learned a lot. But yeah, that first season we were 17, 27-1, and I thought I was going to jump off a cliff. I have no idea how we won 17 ball games.
17 games.
I would have been like I would have thought I'd won the state.
Think
over
about
that deal.
I'm 10 to 30 minutes from Hazel Green, Bob Jones, Sparkman, Athens.
Yep.
I mean, you just go down this list of good softball within an hour of where we're sitting. It's ridiculous. But anyway, I remember playing. Obviously Bob Jones out of the gate was our crosstown rival.
Right.
And that first season we played them, man, I can remember looking at my starting nine, playing defense, and I thought to myself, that one made the JV team at Bob Jones last year as a ninth grader. That one made the JV team. None of the rest of these kids made the JV team, and I had one junior and one senior in my whole program.
And they're all starters.
And we're playing, at that time there was no 7A, so we're in a 6A area. With these
area.
monsters.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think we were 17, 27-1, 22-19, and then we began to turn a corner. I think we were 36-13.
That's not bad.
That last year, my last year there, we were 46-11 and finished fourth in the state. And it was just that was my freshman class. That
came through.
That first freshman class comes all the way up.
As a coach and coaching staff, amazing to be able to see the progress that those girls made.
Yes.
And we've had other James Clemens coaches on here several times talking about starting up the early program. So look at the foundation you've actually laid. I mean, you should be proud looking back and knowing what they are now. Wouldn't probably be there if it hadn't been for you.
I promise it had a lot to do with them and very little to do with me. I tell people all the time, particularly at Wallace State, I say we recruit good kids, and every team has obstacles to overcome. Ours just happens to be coaching, and they've done a pretty good job so far.
Well.
So that decision not to coach softball, how's that going for you?
Yeah, well.
Coach, I don't want to do it. I'm not doing it.
Sometimes after bad games, I leave the field and think, you were on the right track, but you veered somewhere. But
talking about that 40-minute drive, too. Sometimes that's got to be a long ride home after a loss.
Yeah,
that's a long time to be able to think about it.
But I'll tell you what it does for me. That living in Priceville and having to make that ride either to or from, recruiting, it's good for me because I get to make a lot of phone calls. So when I get home, I can try to be dad. I can be husband and try to be off the phone.
Yeah,
so in a way, it's kind of a cool down period /
decompress a little bit. Like you said,
that was when I worked at Dunlop and lived in Good Springs. It was a 45-minute ride, and that was my decompression time from work to home.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, and thank goodness we have the technology now that we have to be able to do those things and do recruiting calls and stuff in between, because you can't. You couldn't do it back in our day.
I remember that first bag phone we got.
Yeah. That's right. Rip that Velcro.
Yes, exactly, buddy. That's for sure. Let's talk about your team you got coming up this year.
I'm really, really excited about it. It's this going into year number 4. This is kind of the first team we feel like we really had our fingerprints on in the recruiting process. Being a 2-year school, it's really a 2 to 3 year cycle before you turn it over. It's not a 4 to 5 like a university, like a 4-year school. So we're returning a good group of, in the recruiting world, we call them, they're 2018s. That's the year they graduated. So our 18s are a good bunch. We've got the returning conference player of the year in that group.
Nice.
We've got a all-conference designated player in softball. It's not a designated hitter. It's a designated player. And that's because she can go in and play defense for anybody on the field. Return our shortstop, who's very good. In fact, just coming off of a visit at Auburn, they had her at the Auburn Georgia game last weekend, then a solid group of kids that were in many cases sitting behind all-American caliber sophomores last year. So they're kind of getting their opportunity this year to step up as a sophomore and maybe earn some time. But I'm going to tell you guys, these 19s, the freshmen that we have on campus right now are phenomenal. They're just as good a people as they are players, and what we have already signed in the 20s that'll come in next year, super duper excited about. But this year's team, last year we were 50-12, And we
that's 62 ball games.
That's a lot of ball games.
So a lot of double headers.
Well, the
yeah.
year before we were 47-13, so we played 60 the year before. We played 62 last year, but we plan on winning a few more and losing a few less. Coming this year, because I really believe that we've gotten better each year, and I think that this year's team has an opportunity. Now we have a freshman class of 16.
Wow.
So we have 8 sophomores and 16 freshmen. And it tails on us from time to time.
Sure, yeah.
But they are highly talented, and we think that we've got an opportunity.
If you had drop off, so it's not college ball. College athletics is not for everybody.
Right,
no,
that's correct.
It's a different animal.
It's a different world when you're playing 3A softball to Wallace State.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. It's there is an acclimation period because your support structure completely changes as a freshman in college. Your mom and dad, whoever has been at home fixing your supper, washing your clothes,
not there anymore.
They're not there, and so you're making relationships within the team and on the coaching staff for a new support structure, and then you've got academic expectations of study hall, and some of them are in rehab and physical therapy, and then obviously the practices and the early morning lifts are really intense. It's quite an acclimate. If you can make it until Christmas, the spring is easy money. Something's on the line. It's fun. You're traveling a lot. But now,
and you're doing what you came there to do.
That's right. But once that new wears off, somewhere around September and October, early fall, you really usually see a little bit of attrition because people go, "Hey, wow, this isn't. It's a little more than I thought."
Yeah.
So.
It is a different world. So we've got a buddy named Ricky Hargrove.
Beanie. The Bean.
So Beanie,
you know Beanie?
I do.
You know Beanie?
Yeah, he should.
That's why he's giggling.
Yeah.
Beanie just threw a shout out there. Let's see what old Beanie said. Ask AJ about his local umpires that calls his games. Beanie, I will say, off the record, off air, he had plenty to say about the umpires. I'll just put it like that. Now we'll give him a chance. Now we'll give him a chance. Now we'll give Coach the opportunity to say something on air.
No, look, we are really blessed with the umpires we have in our area, and of course they make mistakes. But I'm gonna tell you something, man. When we travel, and I don't mean anything ugly here, but seriously, when we travel outside of our little region, maybe to South Alabama for conference games, or sometimes to the Panhandle of Florida and stuff. You really find out what you've got versus what other people are having to deal with, and so not just numbers wise, but quality. We've got some good umpires in this area, and they're the same crowd. It seems like I have almost the same guys I had at James Clemens, the guys that call that 6A, 7A ball up in this area. We get a lot of them for our games too. Yeah,
and old Beanie's been doing it a long time, and he's a good one.
He's been doing it so much he done had to give him a new hip.
Yeah, he wore it out.
He wore it out.
Yeah.
So who all you were talking about other teams? Who all's in your conference?
Okay, so the Alabama Community College Conference is made up of 16 softball teams. There are 8 in the North Division and 8 in the South. In the North, there's us, Shelton State, Marion Military Institute, Snead State, Central Alabama Community College, which is in Alexander City, Southern Union State Community College, which is in Wadley. That's the farthest south we go. That's down there near Auburn. But moving back up this way, you've got Calhoun, and I think I already said Snead. Yeah. But and Bevel State. I'm sorry. Bevel State brought their team back 2 years ago.
Okay. I never heard of the school in Alabaster. Central
Alabama Community. Everybody calls it CAC, C-A-C-C.
I don't recall them.
Yeah.
So, do you know how long they've been around?
A long time.
Really?
They really have. Yeah.
I have no idea where I've been.
Yeah.
You say that's in Alabaster?
Alexander City.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And they have a solid program.
Yeah, okay.
Solid program.
Oh, they got a lot of that. Alex City's a nice area.
So that's that's a lot of traveling.
It is. Early part of our spring, we do a lot of out-of-state travel, more overnight stuff. When we get into our conference, we're very fortunate because of not having to miss class and stuff. All of our trips are pretty much day trips. When we go down to Wadley for Southern Union, Alexander City for Central Alabama, that's a little bit longer day trip, but it's still a day trip. So our kids are able to get back in class the next day, maybe not have to miss so much on the day of travel. So it's a big benefit to us.
That's awesome.
That is great.
Traveling's got so much better. I'll tell just a quick story back in the day when I played tennis at Calhoun for a short brief of time. I remember going to Jeff State, Birmingham, and then might have been Stillman, I think, in Tuscaloosa. We were playing them. And I guess our program didn't have enough money for hotel rooms. We actually slept on wrestling mats in the gym.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Did they have showers at least? Did you have to sleep in the stand?
we used their locker rooms for showers.
I don't think I could get away with that. I don't think I could get away with that today.
That was before you were born.
Yeah.
So.
1980, what, 5?
85, exactly.
Well,
85.
hey, look, I don't know how much more time we got left, but I want to make a plug here for JUCO athletics. I think that in the world today of the signings on TV and social media and 5 stars and look, guys, it really gets overlooked a lot of times that there's really good athletics at the JUCO level. There are really good people. There's really good opportunity. And you know what? Most of the time you're coming out with little to no student debt. You've established yourself as an academic student, hopefully in a maybe a 20-to-1 student to teacher ratio versus 220-to-1 in an auditorium as a freshman in English at on a 4-year campus, and then just when you choose junior college right out of the gate in high school, all of the doors are still open to you. You still have a Division I door open, a Division II door open, Division III, NAIA. When you decide to go at one of those levels right out of the gate, that's kind of who you are, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't mean that ugly. I just mean for those kids that think they're Division I caliber, then if a quality JUCO program is interested in you, the benefits highly outweigh the cons. So it's something worth looking at, and I felt like I need to say that because we get kind of overlooked sometimes. It's like you don't understand.
There's a stigma attached. I think that it's lesser than, and it's not lesser than by any stretch.
And I can honestly say for sure yes, because my son went to Division III college football. I got news for you. In Texas and in Mississippi, them's men boys. Them's grown men playing Division III college football.
Well, and the academic part of it, like you said, the 20-to-1 ratio of the teacher versus the 220-to-1. Right. You get a lot more, one-on-one, maybe possible assistance, things of that nature. You have a better opportunity to make relationships on and off the field, whether you're playing ball or not. Mm-hmm. So, I'm glad you brought that up.
No, I think that needs to be said. And there are a lot of kids out there that are really good ball players, but like my sophomores on my softball team are going to come out hopefully with a very good GPA, with an associate's degree. They have a degree in their pocket.
To have that degree.
All of those doors are now still open and little to no student debt. Yeah. And you tell me how many sophomores out there at these 4-year schools can say that. How many of them can say all that?
And the student debt deal, like you said, as well, is a big issue. Yeah. I begged my nephews to go to Calhoun, just because it was closer by. You still had that, like you said, that support system around you. Right. And, Calhoun's great as far as academic, or if you want to try out for a ball team, try out, whatever. But because they're both pretty good at it.
And let me tell you something. I used to go when I lived 1987 is when I originally got married, and Athens State still had their softball program on. Dude,
killers.
Them girls could 70 mile an hour softball.
They could flat play.
Now, are there many schools like that, before we let you go, are there many schools like that around anymore where you have, it's just the 2 upper level years?
Very, very few. In fact, I know in the state of Alabama, that's the only second 2-year school. I don't know what you call them, actually.
I don't either. I've never heard the term. No, it's not JUCO. Maybe it's SECO, senior
college.
Well, back kind of what I was saying is, back on the JUCO, but specifically, I know our school. You're talking about the support for the academics. Man, our school does an outstanding job in our tutoring lab. We have full-time tutors in there. It's not teachers required to give an hour of their, it's not faculty required to go put in an hour of their week in there. It's full-time tutors. It's a big, nice facility with all of the resources. We have online tutoring and Skype tutoring and chat.
You got available.
The amount of support you get, and I can only speak for my school, is unbelievable. And so when we have kids on visits that I can tell, at first kind of have their nose in there. I mean, we had a kid on a visit this week, guys, and she's from an organization that their kids go Power 5. I mean, these kids are Alabama, Auburn. These are SEC Power 5 kids all the time out of this organization. And the dad looked at me on the way out of the door, and he said, I'm going to tell you something. I don't know what we're going to wind up deciding. We've got some other visits to go on. He said, but you've opened my eyes. This is a completely different setup than I anticipated.
They thought it was just going to be old plain Jane.
Yeah, I think it was just kind of a courtesy. We don't want to shut anybody out visit. And I think when he left there, he went, wow, we got something to really consider here.
And what's even better about that is he'll go back and he'll be talking about that.
That's right.
And there'll be other people's eyes open as well.
Do you deal with any of these showcases?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I didn't know how.
Yeah,
that was just the bigger boys.
No. This is that is the name of the game. In fact, last weekend, my assistant and I, who does an outstanding job, we spent the weekend in Montgomery. All weekend. I mean, she worked a camp in Enterprise, then came up there, and so it's 2 days slam full of showcase exposure is what the buzzword exposure tournament, and that's kind of where it's at. Recruiting is the lifeblood of your program, and you see a kid out at that exposure or that showcase that you like, and you invite them to your camp. We've got a huge prospect camp on our campus tomorrow. It filled up in 5 days. We only haven't taken like 60, and it was boom and full.
That says a lot for y'all, though.
Yeah,
for what people think of y'all.
Wallace State was good before I got there. It's going to be good after I leave.
Yeah, but you're doing a great job of maintaining it while you're there, brother.
I appreciate that. I'm just very, very fortunate.
Well, we're fortunate to have you today, A.J. Daugherty.
Yeah.
Daugherty. I'm going to get it right. Daugherty. Sean, I keep thinking Sean Daugherty, the basketball player in NASCAR.
I got you.
That's the same pronunciation, Daugherty. Yeah.
Hey, well, y'all come see us sometime.
We would love to. Wallace State's head coach, Wallace State softball.
We are in the heyday of softball. We really, this is the golden era of fast pitch softball.
It's big time.
And
it's big time.
Yeah, we're all very fortunate to be a part of it, and that definitely includes me.
Absolutely. Coach, thanks for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Tom McClung, Old Time Cat, Tide the Bod Tomlin, producer extraordinaire Tim Lambert, we ain't got to go home, but we got to get ourselves out of here. We won't be here next week, so we'll have a special program on. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Roll Tide.